Hey, it's Wayne Williams, speaking of horses, and we're in North Georgia, just outside Jasper, correct?
Yes. Little town called Talking Rock.
I didn't know that.
Little town called Talking Rock, and it's supposed to be where there's a place on the creek over in downtown where the Indians that traveled through here would meet and congregate and conversate or whatever. That's the history on it. Now, I don't know that for sure.
Well, it sure sounds good.
Yeah.
And it probably is true. You know? It's like, I have to tell this, Carl, before we start. Used to go to this little place outside Memphis, Tennessee, and it was on Getwell Road. And I said, how come it's called Getwell Road? And said, well, the hospital's at the end of the street. So they called it the Getwell Road.
Road.
Horses. Piranha! Oh no! Oh, the humanity! Oh, piranha.
And we want to give a great big thank you to Total Equine Feeds. Great company, great supporter of Speaking of Horses.
They are our family, and we only want the best for them. No standing water means clean, good tasting, algae-free, mosquito-free, and virus-free water. No risk of electric shock, no risk of fire from faulty wiring. Cool water in the summer, warm water in the winter. Water delivered fresh from the water supply at 50 degrees year-round. Drinking Post Water.
Anyway, we are here, and Carl Bledsoe is my guest. Now, Carl does a tremendous amount of work with gaited horses, always has.
Yes.
And we're at his place, and we're going to be doing a whole talk here for the next 30 minutes on Speaking of Horses about Carl, what he does, gaited horses. So, Carl, welcome, and tell us, how long have you been in gaited horses? You know?
Well,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot with your age or anything.
Well, I'm 52. I grew up in a family that trained, bred, showed, trained Tennessee walking horses. I came up in the Tennessee walking horse world and enjoyed a pretty productive career training show type horses. As a child coming up, I trained beside my father. We were in business together for several years, and then I went out on my own and enjoyed some success of my own. Won a world championship, reserve world championship, several state titles, had a master judge's card, judged some pretty prestigious horse shows, all of that kind of stuff. But we changed gears with the gaited horses, specifically the Tennessee walking horse, in 2012, 2013, and the gaited horses that I do now are all either keg shod or flat shod using type horses. And what I mean for using type horses, if you trail ride, if you do any kind of trail obstacle, I've got a little Tennessee walking horse right now that I'm about to start doing some cow work with. So we've changed gears, and we're trying to promote a different avenue to go down with your gaited horses, specifically the Tennessee walking horse, because I'd like to see that breed over the next few years flourish in some different directions.
Well, and when you think gaited horses, you do think pretty much first and foremost, you think in Tennessee walking horse.
Yes.
I mean, there's other breeds of gaited horses, but the walking horse has pretty much dominated that for, you know, most of the history of the gaited horses here in the U.S. So when you're working with gaited horses, what is it about that gaited horse that separates it out from, well, those of you that ride quarter horses or stock horses? What separates it out?
The ease of the ride. Most of the clientele that comes to me, or I would say 90%, are female, anywhere from age 62 to, I have one lady that's 78 this year that had a little horse that I worked for a little while, and the reason they like the gaited horses is the ease of the ride. They don't have to post the trot. It's a little more comfortable. As women, they get a little older, they're not as agile, and they're not able to post a trot. It's a little uncomfortable. Some of them have arthritis. It's just the ease of the ride, plus the temperament. Most of your gaited breeds are a little easier going. The temperament on them makes them easier to train, to do these other different things with.
The rural American lifestyle. It's how we work, and it's how we play. It's how we learn and how we enjoy the finer things in life. How we take care of our animals and tend to the land. It's a way of life. Has been for hundreds of years. Now there's a whole new way for rural America to watch TV.
EquiAid, the first and last aid for wound, skin disorders, proud flesh eliminator, all guaranteed. Safe and effective water-based, naturally antibacterial. You'll want it in your tack box, in your trailer, on the trail with you or any event. That is EquiAid. Check them out, equiaid.com. EquiEssentials Horse Care Products, a complete horse care package of all grooming, skin care, body care products, all from EquiEssentials. Developed by Dr. Tom Tweeton, these products are all tested and checked to make sure they're safe on your animals, horses, and in some cases dogs and the like. But you need to have EquiEssentials as a part of your tack box and routine. That's EquiEssentials Horse Care Products. So, when you look at a gaited horse, such as Tennessee Walking Horse, what is it in the structure of that horse that automatically has them do the gait, whereas you have that standard trot or jog with a stock horse? You get that different gait, that footfall. What is it in their structure?
Well, it's not necessarily the structure, Wayne. It's genetics. It's the T3 gene that's been identified. 2 or 3 different universities have done genetics tests, and the T3 gene is the gene that they've identified that has moved through various different selective type breeding over the years to give that horse the ease of the gait. And the difference is, like a quarter horse or a Morgan horse, and there are gaited Morgans and Arabian, they're diagonal gaited, which means opposite sides of the body move, opposite legs move in unison. So like on a quarter horse, his left front leg and his right rear leg would move together, which is diagonal. On the gaited horse, the breeds that I work with specifically, the mountain horse, spotted saddle, rack, and the Tennessee Walking Horse, they move laterally, but each foot takes an independent step. So they'd have to take an even step, but each foot moves independently of the other, and that's where you get the forward beat. And since it's laterally and it goes the footfall, say if the horse was to step off with his right rear foot first, the next foot in sequence would be left rear, left front, right rear, right front, and then it would repeat itself.
So that means that there's only one foot on the ground at any one time when they're moving.
No, that's a racking horse. That's a single foot.
See, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. On the walking horse, it's a 3-2 footfall carrying pattern. So if the horse is in gait correct, depending on the speed, like at a flat walk, he has 3 feet on the ground all the time, 1 foot in the air. As you add a little speed, you get to the 2. It'll go 3-2, 3-2, 3-2.
Okay.
As you add speed, and then when you get to the 1 foot, it's like the speed rackers that go really, really fast, and they get to the 3-2-1 footfall pattern.
Okay. Now, how does that relate exactly? And I'm a novice in this, but is that where you get the term single foot?
That's exactly where you get the term single foot.
That's the single foot means single foot on the ground.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So you're educating me here, Carl. That's what we're trying to do. So this footfall is what keeps that horse nice and level and smooth.
Absolutely. It is the footfall, and it is the repetition, the recycling of the footfall. But there's a lot more that takes place with this horse for him to be correct in gait, because going through the training, these horses can become uncomfortable to ride if they fall into what we call a pace. And that's where both legs on the same side of the body work in unison, and it would be just the opposite of a trot. The pace would be both legs, and it would be uncomfortable like the diagonal trot. You have to post it, but you can't post a pace. There's no way, because it's not corners carrying you. It's a very off-balanced, uncomfortable gait to ride.
So in the pace, you've got to stay down on the saddle.
Well, you do,
Yeah.
but if I'm worth my salt as a trainer, my horses don't pace, and that's what I spend most of my time doing, is
Right.
correcting the pace.
Right.
Because structurally, when a horse paces, he's hollow-backed, which means his back end's not engaged. And you know as well as I do, traveling like you do, the world is about protecting these horses' backs and teaching them how to carry the rider for the long-term health of the horse.
Right.
So that's where I come into play. That's what comes to me.
And what that comes down to a lot of times too comes down to what I call pilot error. And that is,
Absolutely.
how you actually ride that horse and balance yourself on that horse has an awful lot to do with how well that horse is going to perform.
Absolutely. So it's understanding what's going on under you. So when I take horses to train, of course the people have to come and take lessons on the horse while I'm training, where they can learn and develop the feel and the carriage of the horse through the training process, because it does have a unique feel to it, and it does have a unique movement to it. And all the breeds that I just named, the mountain horse, spotted horse, walking horse, racking horse, at the intermediate training gait, I'm a proponent for teaching that horse to flat walk. And to have a flat walk, they have to have evenness of gait, they have to have overstride. Now the overstride is non-defining because all horses are built differently. So the overstride for one horse might be more than the overstride for another horse.
That's based on the structure of that horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the third component you have to have for the flat walk is a head shake. And the head shake to me and the flat walk are the most important part, because that's where that horse learns how to carry you with balance. If you think about a person walking at the mall and walking, down the mall, and you're watching them, and they're going at a pretty good rate, they use their arms with their legs, and it's a counterbalance. So you want that horse, you want to teach that horse early on in training, at the training gear, which is either the working walk or the flat walk. You want that horse to shake his head, because when he shakes his head, he's striding under himself with his hind legs. But not only is he doing that, he's moving his barrel from side to side, which is engaging the horse's core muscles and strengthening.
Yeah. And when you're out on a trail ride, especially when you're on a trail ride and you're going to be out there for several hours, as my wife and I say, we used to go out for several hours, now it's just an hour.
Yeah.
But that's a factor of our age, not the horses,
Right.
okay? But, you've got to keep that horse sound for the ride, because otherwise, as they would used to say, or get a sense of humor if you have to lead him in.
That's
right?
exactly right.
So you've got to take care of, you got to do it right from the rider or pilot standpoint to make sure that horse, you're not abusing the horse with balance or weight so that he tires out quickly or comes up lame or whatever.
Exactly, and that goes hand in hand with lameness, because if a horse is not carrying you correctly through his back, if he's hollow-backed, he will become painful. And when they become painful, then you have behavioral issues. And all of these things go hand in hand with the horse carrying you in the correct posture. And these horses are born with that gene. The horses do the 4-beat at birth. An hour after birth, you can go out the pasture with all of those breeds, and that young foal will do that 4-beat running around mom. But what happens as he grows and his body changes, and then you introduce the weight of the saddle and the weight of the rider, that horse's back is not designed out of mother to carry that weight. So you have to train them to raise that back and engage themselves to carry you correctly.
Right. And the other thing that I see at this anyway, and I see it a lot of times no matter what breed of horse you're talking about, if you don't pay attention to the saddle fit, the way that saddle fits your horse, you could potentially really be causing some problems, because that's your favorite saddle. And then you take your favorite saddle and go to another horse.
Absolutely.
It may not fit it fits you, but it doesn't fit that horse.
Well, and here training, my wife and I own a handful of horses, and each one of our horse has his own individual saddle. because it's more for the horse than it is for us. And through the life of a horse, you'll probably change saddles 3 times, because through the development of the muscling along the top line of the horse, the top line changes. So what fits a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, when we start them under saddle, they're at 3, they'll carry a saddle in hand at 2. But what fits them at that age is not necessarily the same size saddle that'll fit them at 5 coming 6, because you develop muscle along the top line. And these horses, their withers grow.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got to pay a lot of attention to that.
And then if you're like us, and you're out there with a pair of 18-year-olds still riding them,
Yeah.
because you love that horse,
Yep.
that changes again, because as they age, that starts to change
Absolutely, absolutely. And then, you know, as they get older, and that's why I'm such a proponent for training these horses and teaching them to carry you in the correct posture early on. I've got clients that have 25 to 28-year-old horses that they still trail ride 3 days a week, because they've gone through the pains to teach that horse correct, and through teaching the horse how to carry you structurally, but helping that horse be balanced mentally as well. It all goes hand in hand. And you know, when we train a horse here, when we first get a horse in for training, the first part that we try to balance is the mental balance with the horse, and the mental communication, keeping that horse balanced even though he realizes we have an expectation of him, and helping him go through the different rigors of training without getting you know, flighty or confused where behavioral problems you know, come around.
Right, right. And then again, when you talk about trail riding, and when you get to the point where my wife and I are, when we head out on the trail ride, we're not out there to set a land record, a speed record, do anything. We're out there to enjoy the ride, enjoy the horse, and enjoy the scenery, and just enjoy the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we want a horse that not only we feel comfortable with, and that horse feels comfortable with us, but we have a better level of trust than if you're working a new one in, so you can relax a touch and enjoy the trip.
Absolutely, and I tell people that all the time. You know, they'll call me, I'll have a person call and say, my horse has this going on, and his behavior's like this, and I just don't know what's going on. And the very first thing I say, what kind of relationship do you have with your horse? Well, what do you mean, what kind of relationship? I feed him and all that. And I'm like, no. Does that horse find comfort with you?
Right.
Okay? If that horse finds comfort with you and you have that relationship with him, then you've eliminated that part of the equation as to what's going on behaviorally on the trail. Then you go to look for, is he in pain somewhere? Or is your equipment wrong? Are you having a bad day and not sitting on that horse correct? You're hanging to one side. There's all kinds of stuff.
You know, a story comes to mind with me that really, you know, backs up what you're saying. I watched a guy one time at a horse show. The trainer, a very well-known trainer, doing halter with the horse. The owner was an owner that he owned great horses, but he wasn't always there. He lived elsewhere.
Right.
The horses were with the trainer all the time. The trainer went in the open division and was getting nothing but brands and reserves and everything.
Right.
Then when it came to the amateur division, the owner took the lead. You know right where I'm going,
There
right?
was no communication whatsoever.
Bingo. Went in the arena and got 0-0-0 gait,
Absolutely.
and came out mad. Says, "What are you doing to my horse?" And I'm standing there just an observer. I'm not involved in this at all, but I'm thinking, if you had to handle the horse, and if you had to do something with a horse,
Absolutely.
he doesn't know that you write the checks.
That's exactly right.
He doesn't know that at all.
So what happens in a situation like that is, I say I'm a horse trainer, but you can't really train a horse. You can condition a horse to a behavior. And when you have the horse conditioned to that behavior, whoever is going to be in charge of that horse, whoever's going to be handling that horse, has to understand the conditioning.
Yeah.
Okay, because the person plays a part. Because what happens with a horse is they give you back just exactly what you give them.
Yep.
And if the horse is not familiar with you, if he doesn't find comfort with you, and if you're expecting him to get out there and perform just for you without you being part of the process
Yeah.
and understanding what's going on, it's not going to happen.
I know I had a mare for years that I would go to parades and things, and we'd be out of town in a strange barn, but I always seemed to be the first guy at the barn in the morning to feed, okay? And I would just walk in, and all I had to do was say, JT. That head would pop out that front door or out of that stall and look for me, and that's the relationship you want. She knew my voice, and
Absolutely.
she was right there.
Absolutely. My wife and I do 100% of the care here at our farm. We don't have any outside help whatsoever. And each horse knows my wife and myself individual of each other. And they do that at feeding time, but not only at feeding time. If you and I were to walk down to the big pasture right now, I can whistle and all the horses that come to me. It's not feeding time, but they just like being with us because we spend time with them. When we're working with the horses, we're trying to help the horse understand the people, but we're working on the horse's self-esteem.
That's right.
And if you can understand working on the horse's self-esteem and go at it from that angle, and he looks forward to the communication with you, what happens is magical when that horse looks at you that way.
You know, the self-esteem part is a big part of that, because I had a horse 30 years old. He was still okay. I mean, I didn't ride him anymore. I probably could have a little ways, but he was getting a little arthritic. But he was doing okay for 30. All right. One day we're in the barn, and I brought him out of the stall, and my wife and I had been grooming the two we were riding, and I just brought him out, and I started clipping, and she says, "What are you doing to old Comanche?" I said, "I'm clipping him, I'm grooming him," and I just worked with him for a half an hour. Didn't do a lot, great, just did it. You know, made him, he was enjoying it. He was a different horse for the next 2 or 3 days. You know, it's just like with people. You put them out in a retirement pasture and don't do anything with them.
That's exactly right.
You know, people are just like that, and horses are the same way. If you ignore them, pretty soon they're depressed.
We have one individual horse here. He's my personal walking horse. I do a lot of demos with him, and he likes to come over. Tammy and I clean the water troughs about every third day here, and he likes to come over while we're cleaning the water trough. There's 3 that's right there close together, close to his pasture, and he gets an extra scratch and an extra rub, and he you know, just pounds for attention when we're over there.
Welcome to the world of orange slow feeder, the longest lasting, highest quality slow feed net in the world. We currently have 12 different sizes, and we have anywhere from a small trailer net clear up to a 6x6 round bale or a 4x4 8 square bale net. And you can contact us at orangeslowfeeder.com. We also have a Facebook page, and we're at Pinterest, and we'll be on Twitter soon.
Those fence systems, they're non-conductive, they're self-insulating, they're maintenance-free. Beyond that, they're very easy to install. They'll last for years and years. Timeless fence system.
And we want to give a great big thank you to Adeptus Animal Nutrition based on science, designed to help your horses and other pets and animals. Adeptus, now a part of the Piranha family. Well, right now we're going to catch up with a bit of a training clinic with Carl Bledsoe and Just Gait. Watch this.
If I just do this, then I'll just ride the horse around a little bit, let them stretch their legs out. I'm going to ride out of the frame a little bit and see if I can come through and get him to gait for you. Right there's your gate, guys. It's not wide open. Perfect gait. We're going to stop and talk about this just a minute. We're working toward 4 independent steps. We want this horse to separate his feet, but I want him at this level to shake his head. The reason I want him to shake his head is that's where he gets his balance from. It's a counterbalance for his body. In any level of riding that you do, whether it's dressage, whether it's trail riding, if you do any kind of cow work, the first thing you got to have is rhythm, and this horse needs to walk out at a good balanced walk to where they can carry you and build the muscle that it takes to carry you along their top line. I'm giving you just a preview of how I start these horses. As this horse progresses through the training, I'm going to expect when I use that indirect rein behind the opposition for him to really move his hind end. This horse has been a trail horse for 2 years. See right there, he's giving me his hind end, okay? All I did was put the rein behind the opposition. I didn't pull on the rein. He still wants to kind of be combative with his mouth when you use that. But I'm just asking him with my body and waiting for him to give me the right answer, okay? It's all muscle, it's all memory, it's all strength, and all of that goes together. And when you ride these horses, if you can continue a dialogue with them over and over and over again, and they know what to expect out of you because you've trained them into this balance and you're not controlling them with a big harsh bit or a tie down or any kind of attachment that puts pressure on the head. If you can communicate these reins to where they talk to the horse's feet through the top line, you're going to have a balanced horse mentally and physically, and that's what's best for the long-term health of the horse and with you. So I'm going to do a few more exercises and just keep riding this thing forward. I'm going to get my assistant to bring me a dressage whip where I can escalate my age just a little bit. Well, I'm going to ride out of frame and get my dressage whip. I'm going to get my dressage whip. Okay, so I had a little trouble moving the back end a little bit a minute ago. So I'm gonna escalate my aid a little bit, okay? So when I go behind the opposition with this rein, I'm gonna stop the forward with my outside rein and ask him with my dressage whip at his hindquarters to give me his hindquarters. Keep going forward, give me your hindquarters, good. All right, he did pretty good at that, so I'm gonna ride out, keep him in this same bend. Change sides with my dressage whip. Get the horse to give me a right bend. And when I get everything set up, we get behind the opposition with the indirect rein and ask him to give me the hindquarters on the other side. Good boy, I'm going to ride out of this. So see, I'm doing the same exercise. I've just gotten a little more aid on helping the horse figure out what my body's saying. And it's not completely correct today. I'm not sitting as perfect as I could today because I'm having to overdo with my body a little bit to tell him that I need him to do what I need him to do. But what I want you guys to understand with what's going on here, we're working towards rhythm through relaxation. So I'm trying to teach this horse to let me communicate with him and approach different places of his body and ask him different things of his body without him getting raised up, blowing up like he's a pressure cooker, and him understanding, hey, when I move the rein, I need you to do something. You know, if I move it in a direction, one direction or the other, you know, I can pick it up right here just a little bit and ask him, can you give me your body? Okay, when you do this with these animals and they understand that you're going to praise them for what they do, and then you can put these steps going together forward, and the dialogue makes sense to the horse. It's just the best scenario for training the horse's mind for you to do whatever with him. But what it does where I'm at is when I go through this process of training and I teach the horse through this relaxation how to supple his body and use his feet in a situation that I need him to, I can get the correct gait out of the horse. There's no magic in the gait. The gait is genetic in them. It's their fingerprint. But what interrupts the gait, what makes the horses not gait correctly, more times than not, is rider error. So you couple that with the fact that there's so many devices out there on the market that people use to control this thing rather than having a level of communication with these animals. It's no wonder people have trouble teaching this. So I hope I gave you just a little preview of the type of stuff that I do with these animals. I hope you understand that good horses are trained over years. They're not made in a month. This horse will be with me for about another month or so. and then he'll go on back home to the lady that owns him, and she will come back on a regular basis to have lessons where we can continue this type training to where the horse can benefit from having a vocabulary of different aids that this lady can ride him with, where it's safe for her and him both to go down the trail. So I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say here. If you have any questions, you can get me at Just Gait on Facebook or my Facebook page. Carl Bledsoe Horsemanship is my website, and all of my contact numbers are on that. And before we finish, I'm going to gait this horse out a few more times just to give you guys an idea of what I'm looking for, a good balanced 4-beat gait.